Well, as many of you know, it can be a very scary thing to be in an automobile accident. It can leave you in a state of upheaval, and you're left with lingering pain. Sometimes a lot of people think, where do I go next?
Yep, well, you call Doc Tony is what you do. Anthony Carruthers, chiropractic physician, better known as Doc Tony, is in the house. What's up, Doc?
I love
good,
the
Nick,
Crocodile Dundee thing you've got going on
cool.
here.
Thank you.
They say
How many hats do you have, really?
About 15.
Okay.
15 different
Great.
hats.
And do you have outfits to match them all?
No, I'm not real big on the outfit hat matching. Just,
I am.
You got to get the black, obviously a black hat with a black outfit, but black goes with everything.
It looks good. Very
However
slimming.
I'm feeling that day.
So we'll talk about what you're actually here for
Yeah, right.
today.
Sorry.
Nick, the last few times I've been on your show, we discussed what happens when people have car accidents.
Injuries, yep.
Specifically, low impact collisions when people damage their soft tissue, and how important it is to get that soft tissue rehabilitated. And I want people to understand that it's not a given in Florida that you're going to be able to get that type of treatment that you may need if you're injured in a car accident. In fact, out of all 50 states, where do you think Florida ranks?
I don't know.
We are dead last.
Really?
And what that basically means is our legislators in the state of Florida are not doing a good job of looking after the people in Florida. When you drive a car, every time that you get in your car, your whole life potentially could change, meaning it could change whether that's your job, physically, financial changes, all of these things could happen if you're involved in a car accident. And the time to know whether you're properly insured is not after you have the accident. You want to know what your insurance is
ahead of time.
Before. In the event that you do have an accident. I get calls from people all the time, or I talk to people all the time, and they're like, Doc, I have full coverage, or I thought I had full coverage. And that's not even a real term. That's a term that you should just throw away and never even bring that term up
So you
again.
need to ask more questions. You don't just say, I want full coverage. There's a lot more to that.
Well, Nick, what people got to understand, the insurance industries, they're playing chess. And our lobbyists and the other people, they're playing checkers. And when I say the insurance companies, they're playing chess, they're positioning their pawns, their kings. They're getting everything set up to where their main objective is to have people pay premiums and the claims that they're paying as little as possible. And that's their objective. That's okay. It's as long as the people are provided for and taken care of. In the state of Florida, you would think the state of Florida is a no-fault state, and other states are what's called a responsibility state. What sounds better to you, Nick Casey?
Responsibility, I think.
Okay, there you
Because
go.
if you're responsible and everybody's responsible, then we're covered.
And see, Nick, that's what insurance was based on. I don't know if you know how long insurance has been around, but it's actually been around for over 1,000 years in some form or another to insure people in the event of loss. Well, in the state of Florida, you do not have that insurance. If you sustain a loss, there is no guarantee that you are covered. And the main reason that is, it's not a mandatory for the drivers, it's not a mandate for people in the state of Florida to drive with what's called bodily injury coverage. Liability coverage, meaning it is mandatory if you have property damage, but it's not mandatory for people to drive with bodily injury coverage. So if I were to hurt somebody in a car accident, if
Your
I'm
insurance doesn't cover them?
Possibly not, possibly not. It's not a mandate for me to buy that type of coverage for me to protect the person that I may cause damage to. It's not mandatory. What is mandatory is for you to buy what's called personal injury protection. Now, personal protection has been a nightmare for a lot of states since it was first developed, and most states have dropped it. It only exists in 12 states. 38 states have gotten rid of it because it's a system really that it's proven it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work, it started to help doctors get paid. That's why it originated in the 70s, because people had accidents, they were injured, they went to court to sue them to get compensation for whatever damage they had, whether it was property damage or it was their body. So some law professors came, you know what, let's come up with this personal injury protection. It's going to make insurance cheaper, it's going to get these lawsuits out of the courts, and it's going to get the doctors paid sooner. None of that is happening anymore. Really what PIP has become is just it's a $2 billion mandate for the insurance companies. $2 billion. You know how many zeros that is, Casey?
That's quite a few. Have you checked out the deficit and the debt lately? It's a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what, $2 billion mandate, mandatory for we to get. And we'll get into the personal injury protection another time, but I want really people to understand this little insurance card that you have, this is what's going to determine if you're really being looked after. Your agent, if anyone driving out there, call your agent right now. If you do not have bodily injury coverage or you do not have uninsured motorists, fire that agent and get a new agent, because you're driving around in a very dangerous situation, not only to yourself, but to all the other people that are driving. And if everybody was responsible and had the proper coverage, that's what makes it good for everybody, because that's how insurance was based on. You spread the risk amongst everyone, and it makes it affordable for when there's a loss. But now what's happened with weak legislators in our state is they've given the insurance companies everything, and us as citizens, we've got nothing.
I love this about you because you came here as a chiropractor who takes care of people after the injuries, but you're making sure that people are taken care of with their insurance, which is not even really, I mean, necessarily your business, but you know, it's so important to make sure that that's the case. So what do we do if we're injured in an accident and we don't have insurance, or we do have insurance? How can we
Well, if
get
you're
help?
injured in a car accident, the real sad thing about the state of Florida is the only coverage that you're really guaranteed is your personal injury protection. And starting next year, you're not even guaranteed that. Nick, we've talked about the simplest injuries, a sprain, strain. With the cost of health care, $10,000 is not going to do anything for the most minimal injury that you sustain. And now you got this lobbyist that's saying, oh no, $2,500 will take care of everything. So not only that, they're defrauding the people. That's this new bill that's coming into place. It's a fraud. They're saying they're doing it to stop fraud. I don't understand how they're stopping fraud when they're committing fraud. I don't know one person in this country that would take a job if somebody, I'm just going to use this hourly wage as an example. Who would take a job making $10 an hour, and at the end of the week, your boss said, you know what, I'm just going to pay you $250. Show me what you did to earn the other $750, and if I approve, and if my attorneys can't litigate and argue it, I'll pay you. Who's going to take that job? Nobody's going to take that job.
Right.
Well, you're being mandated to pay for $10,000 in personal injury protection, but it's not yours. Your insurance gets to keep a $7,500 bailout that the legislators gave you. But that's not the crime, Nick. The crime is that bodily injury is not a mandatory. You have to have bodily injury or your citizens are not protected. That's the bottom line. Our legislation's got to get working.
Nice.
Well, let me just say that this is the first, you're very passionate. This is the first
Yes.
interview where I've never asked a question. Dr. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, no,
We
it's my
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
my pleasure,
And
my
thank
pleasure.
you, of
Good
course,
stuff.
for sponsoring this segment. And if you find yourself in need of some assistance, if you're ever involved in an auto accident, you can call Doc Tony at 1-888-888-8863 or Nick.
888-888-8863.
There you go
Nick's
for a
got
free
it.
consultation at one of his two locations.
Or you can visit his website at www.doctony.org, because you, my friend, deserve to live pain-free.